so in the lab, we are going to be doing the testing for fetal maternal hemorrhage. And what you need to know is that the test that we're doing that for is to see if there has been a large exchange of baby's blood and mom's blood. So why do we need to do this? We need to do this to see if, number one, the baby has a hemolytic disease of the newborn. And we've just got to see how much blood is going back and forth, because we have to know, is the mom going to make antibodies, etc. Now, we do this primarily for when the mom is Rh negative and the baby's Rh positive. So we mainly do this for hemolytic disease in the newborn due to Rh. With this in mind, we're using the information to see how many vials of RhoGam we're going to be giving to the mom. Well, again, what is RhoGam? RhoGam is preformed antibodies to the D, so they are anti-Ds. So what you need to know is that we use this RhoGam to prevent possible immunization to my patient in the future. So first of all, the mom has to be negative, no antibodies, etc., in order for this to work. Alright, so again, we're going to be using RhoGam. It is a concentrated IgG of this, and it protects the Rh negative mother from being sensitized by D positive cells. And there's a separate PowerPoint on hemolytic disease of the newborn. I think it's already uploaded, but I'll be talking about that later. So first of all, you need to know there are two types of preparations that are available for the RhoGam. One is intramuscular, and they give it at 500 micrograms and 50 micrograms. 50 micrograms. All right. These both can be given intramuscularly as a shot, and I can give it IV as 300 or one that is 120 micrograms. Okay, so these two can be IV, these two are intramuscular. All right, so first of all, how do we know how much to give to a mother? Well, first you need to know is that the 300 micrograms of your RhoGam will protect the mother from 15 milliliters of red blood cells, those are the packed cells, or 30 milliliters of whole blood. You've got to remember that. 15 mils of packed cells or 30 mils of whole blood. All right. The 50 microgram dose is given up to about 12 weeks of gestation. And we just give them one dose from that. And usually it's if a mom has had an abortion or a miscarriage or an ectopic pregnancy that we had to terminate, etc. Now, the 120 microgram is given after this. So this one is given up to 12 weeks. Up to 12 weeks gestation. Now, these are uploaded for you, and they are in your blood bank. I guess they're in your blood bank lab, so I have to upload them for group A, but these notes are already there. All right, all of these doses, especially this one, the 300, must be given to the mom no later than 72 hours after delivery. If we wait past 72 hours, then it's too late. The mom has been sensitized, and too bad, so sad. That's what's going to happen. Okay. So the woman should, now in order to get this, the woman should not already be sensitized by the D antigen, which means she should not have any anti-D D that has been stimulated by natural causes. Okay. All right. The woman should not be already sensitized by your D antigen, and we should administer to it even if she has other antibodies. So let's just say, for example, we've done this. The mom is Rh negative, but she has an anti-K, an anti-C, but she has no anti-D. We are still going to give her the RhoGam even if she has the other two antibodies that are there. All right, let's see. The half-life of the RhoGam is about 21 days as long as it's not being used up. And the 300 micrograms is given 28 weeks of gestation. And now, so the mom is starting at 28 weeks gestation. We can give it to the mom. So when she delivers and we check for antibodies, how are we going to tell if the anti-D is due to RhoGam or is due to natural causes? All right, so what you need to remember is that the RhoGam is strictly IgGs, and we're going to pick it up at 37 NAHG. If it is a true stimulated from baby cells anti-D, we will have some IgMs being made and some IgGs. So it's possible for us to pick it up at immediate spin. So that's kind of how we're going to be looking at that. All right, so in order for the mom to be a candidate for RhoGam, she has to be D negative. If she's D positive, doesn't matter. If she's D subgroup, whatever, no, she's not a candidate. And she has to have delivered a D positive baby. All right. All right, and of course she doesn't have any allo anti-D. All right, so what is the investigations that we're going to be doing in the blood bank? Okay, the investigation is going to be with baby's blood and mom's blood. I'm not sure what color you guys can see best. That purple looks like it's coming out. Let's see if this brown works. Okay, so we're going to have cord blood and we're going to have mama's blood. So we're going to have cord blood. And where do they get the cord blood from? Well, from the cord. So when the baby's being born, the blood comes out of the umbilical cord and they put it into EDTA tube and they send it off to the lab. So we're going to do cord blood and we're going to do mother's blood. Okay, so we're going to get it cord. We keep it for 7 days. And of course it comes from the mom. We're going to do front type only. Front type. ABO. Forward only. Now, we're also going to do the RH. Okay, we're going to check the RH. Can you see that? Yes, it's coming up. Okay, we're going to do the RH. And we have to check to see is the baby negative or is the baby positive. And most important, which you guys have already done in lab, is your DAT. Now remember, the two procedures that are most often done are the Louis freeze and the gamma eluate. The Louis freeze is for ABO and the gamma eluate is for any of the other antibodies. All right. Now on the mom, we're going to do front and back. So we're going to do full type, front and back type, front and back type for the mom, the RH, of course. And for the mom, we're going to be doing an antibody screen, which you guys have already performed in the lab. And then if it's positive, we need to do an antibody ID. Okay. And, all right, now, the question comes out is, if we have identified an IgG immunoglobulin for the mom, we're going to have to evaluate for a fetal maternal hemorrhage. What that means is we have to evaluate to see how much of baby's blood and mom's blood have been mixed. All right, so the testing that we're going to do for this is called the Rosette test. Well, that's more of the principal Rosette test. Can you see that? I don't know if it comes out well. It may not be coming out, so I'll put it over here. Rosette test. Okay, the Rosette test for fetal maternal hemorrhage. And so that's really, all this is introduction because that's what I really want to talk to you guys about. All right, so now there are some specific problems that we have with cord blood, etc. And one of that is Wharton's jelly. Cord blood is full of protein, especially what we call a Wharton's jelly. Because of that, we have to wash the red blood cells a minimum, depending on your specific lab procedure, between 5 to 10 times to get all of that jelly off of there. All right, some other serological problems is if the newborn has received an intrauterine transfusion. So if the newborn has received transfusion and we're collecting blood, a lot of that blood may not be the baby's blood. It might be the old cells that we've transfused into them. All right, so we can get false positives for lots of different things. The baby cells can be coated with antibody, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so now what I want to do is actually get into the fetal screen or the Rosette test. The fetal screen or Rosette test. So again, why are we doing this? We are doing this to see how much baby's blood has gone into mom's blood, okay? So I'm just going to call this a fetal screen. Depending on the kit that your hospital gets, it might be called the FMH, Rosette test, it might be called a lot of different things, but the principle that I'm going over is basically the same. So we're going to be looking at fetal screen. Okay, often called the Rosette test. All right, so why we're doing that is to see, again, this is like the 5th time I've told you how much baby's blood and mom's blood have been mixed together. It's a very simple test. And so basically what we're looking at is fetal maternal hemorrhage. Fetal maternal hemorrhage. Okay. FMH. Okay, fetal maternal hemorrhage. So that's what we're going to be looking at. All right. This is not a quantitative test. It is a qualitative test. So you need to remember, all it's telling me is, did I have a large bleed during the birthing process? That's all it's telling me. So again, it is a qualitative, not quantitative. The quantitative test we'll get into after this. So it will not distinguish between small hemorrhages and massive maternal hemorrhages. It's not going to distinguish between them. All it's going to say is, yes, we've had a large amount of blood being done. All right. All right, so basically this is how it works. I'm going to draw it out for you so that you guys know. So, first of all, whose sample is it? It's mom's sample, mom's blood. Mom's blood sample. It does not come from the baby. Mom's blood sample. All right, so what we have here are, we have red blood cells, and I'm going to put mom here, and then I'm going to put baby here. And remember, baby is Rh positive, so they have the D, and mom is Rh negative, all right? So we've got these cells here. Mom. All right, so what we're going to do is add antibody. What antibody am I adding? Anti-D. Well, actually, let me change the color of those antibodies. Okay. This is anti-D. All right, so what we're going to do after that is we're going to be incubating it for about 15 minutes, 37 degrees centigrade. So what we're doing is we're allowing the antibodies to come onto the baby cells. So then what's going to happen is we're going to get mom's blood. I'm just going to put M for mom and B for baby. And so what's going to happen is we're going to have antibodies that are not attached and antibodies that are attached. So again, what is that called? That is called, I'm just looking to see if it came out. Yes, okay. So these are called sensitized. So now we have sensitized the baby cells by attaching the antibody to that. All right, so what do we have to do? We have to wash it, right? We're going to have to wash it, and then why are we washing? To get rid of all of the excess antibodies. Wash. We have to wash it. You feel that? Yes, the wash is there. Okay, we have to wash it. All right, so that's the first step. So I'll put over here, number 1. That's the first step. First step is sensitizing the antibody. Then we have a second step in which we're going to make the rosettes. So we have, again, mom's, babies, and remember that the baby has got antibodies all over it, right? Okay, so now we have to make a rosette. So how are we going to make the rosette? Is that we are going to be adding indicator cells. So I'm going to make those a different color. I guess I'm going to make them blue. Plus D cells. These are D positive cells. Okay, these are indicator cells. Indicator cells. And we're going to mix the two together we're going to centrifuge them, okay? A centrifuge. And then what's going to happen is we're going to have competition between baby cells and indicator cells for the sites of the antibodies. When they come together, it makes what we call a rosette. So I'm going to draw some rosettes. Now, I'm going to draw this a little bit bigger and out of proportion just so that we can see. So we have baby cells. And remember that the baby has D on it. And we've got antibodies on it. So what's going to happen is that we're going to get competition for these D cells here. Can you see that? Competition for the D cells. And they're going to come in here also and get stuck with these antibodies. Okay, so I haven't, proportionately it's not right. I mean, they're the same size, but we get these. So what happens is basically what I have is an antibody that's going to be attached to baby cells, and the antibodies going to be attached to the indicator cells. So when this occurs, it's called a rosette. Now, that we must look under the microscope for the rosettes. Okay. All right. So again, this is the rosette test. This is what you're going to be doing in the lab. It's really very easy to do. Now, what you're going to do is, oh, I didn't bring it. Should have brought, okay, let's just pretend my phone is a slide. So we're going to get the test tube and we're going to dump the test tube on the corner. See, we're going to dump it on the corner of the slide and have the blood. And then we're going to tip it back out into the test tube. Once we do that, we're going to quickly go to the microscope and look for the number of rosettes in a minimum of 5 to 10 fields. Now it depends on your kit's instructions. Okay. All right, so we're going to be looking for that. Again, so what that is the kit. These indicator cells here, you got to know what those are. Those are O positive cells, okay? And with this test, we have to have the patient sample, a positive control, and a negative control. So you're going to be using you're going to be running 3 test tubes at the same time. Mom's blood, positive control, and a negative control. All right, so again, the negative control is just going to be O negative cells. Now, a big note is, let's just say I found a whole bunch of rosettes. You need to know that the number of rosettes observed on the slide does not correlate with the number of positive cells in the maternal blood. Again, all we're doing is to see if I had a large amount of blood being exchanged between mom and baby. All right, so we're going to count, again, look at the package insert to see what is the area, or not the area, the number of areas you need to choose. All right, so they say we have to look at it 5 different areas. All right, well, how many do I have to see? So for example, if we have 5 different areas and we see 7 or more rosettes, then that's considered positive. If I see less than that, it's going to be negative. Okay, so again, well, Dr. Torres, what's the right answer? It depends on the test kit. You have to look at your test kit and look to see how many rosettes is considered positive and how many rosettes is considered negative. All right, so if I have a positive test, what's it telling me? It's telling me all I had was a large amount of fetal maternal bleed. Okay, if it's negative, then there wasn't a amount. If it's negative, I don't need to worry about giving RhoGam. But if it's positive, now I have to figure out, well, how much RhoGam do I give? Because again, this is just qualitative, not quantitative. Okay, the other thing you need to remember too is 300 micrograms is good for 15 milliliters of packed cells or 30 milliliters of whole blood. Okay, so now, well, what? There has to be a next step. Fortunately, these tests most of the time come out negative because the mom has been given RhoGam and everything is good. All right. All right, so now if this comes out positive, I have to quantitate the amount of blood that's going to be there. And that's when we're going to use the KB test. KB test, which stands for Kleihauer-Betke. Now let me see if I have that written out somewhere so I spell it right. I don't have it written down anywhere. All right, I'm going to do my best to spell it. K-L-E-I-N-H-A, Kleihauer-Betke. Okay, don't quote me on the spelling. I can't spell. But it stands for Kleihauer-Betke. The two guys that invented it, KB, the KB test. So the KB test is going to actually count how or quantitate how much blood there was. Now, I had mentioned this in Hematology 1 because actually what we're looking for is fetal hemoglobin. So when we talked about fetal hemoglobin, hereditary persistence of hemoglobin, then we talked about this test. All right, so the Kleihauer-Betke is going to actually give us the percent of cells. Okay, it's actually going to give us the percent of fetal cells. Now, in order to calculate the volume of maternal well, let me go back and let us tell you how it's done. All right. Oh, maybe I should do a different color. All right, so this is a slide. And you're going to make a smear of your slide. And then on your slide, you're going to get, of course, your red blood cells. All right, so we have to stain it, okay? So when we stain it, we're going to elute off the fetal hemoglobin. So the principle of the Kleihauer-Betke test is fetal hemoglobin is going to be resistant to acid elution. Okay? So I'm going to stain it. Okay, so we're going to stain the slide, and when we do this, it's going to elute off hemoglobin, HGB. It's going to elute the hemoglobin. What you need to remember is that fetal hemoglobin resists it. So if it resists, then I have this. So these dark one is hemoglobin F, and these light ones are your hemoglobin A. Okay, so again, this is the adult hemoglobin. Adult hemoglobin are going to be pale looking, and the fetal hemoglobin are going to be dark. All right, so then all we're going to do is count. The stain is erythrocin B. Well, we don't have to add it, so we just have to remember acid. Erythrocin B. All right, so how are we going to do this? It's like your retic count. What we're going to do, though, is count 2,000 cells. I'll put it over here. Count 2,000 cells. And then we just keep track of how many are adult. Okay. 7 hemoglobin F, 1,993 hemoglobin A. Okay? All right. So then we just count them, and then we come up with the percentage. So let me see. So I had 7 divided by 1,993 equals times 100 equals 0.35%. All right, so that's the percent of fetal cells in my body. All right, now, in order to figure out how much bleed there is, we'll take the percent, 0.35%, and we're going to multiply it by 50, and then that gives us the percent. All right. Now, I'm going to go back. All right, so that's how we do the Kleihauer-Betke. I can't say, do you have any questions? Because then I can't hear you. All right, so that's how we do the Kleihauer-Betke. Now, we are not going to do the Kleihauer-Betke in lab. And in the hospitals, they actually don't do the Kleihauer-Betke either, because really it's not necessary, because the Rosette test usually comes out negative. But if they do have to do that, then they send it off. It's a send out. It's really strange because it's so easy to do. And normally, if there is a large fetal bleed, then the pediatrician for the baby and the obstetrician for the mother, they know how to fix the current situations with them. Okay, so now that's how you do the Kleihauer-Betke test. So how do I figure out the total number of vials? All right, to figure out the total number of vials. Okay, how many vials? How many vials of RhoGam do I have to give? All right, so first of all, we need to have the percentage of the Kleihauer-Betke. So let's just do Kleihauer-Betke. On my paper, I have a 1.3%. All right, so what did we say just previously after I erased it? We multiply it by 50. All right, so we're going to take 1.3 and multiply it by 50. Okay, so 1.3 times 50 equals 65. Well, what does that number mean? That number means that there has been 65 milliliters of fetal blood in the baby. Now again, this is whole blood. Remember, 1 microgram of RhoGam is good for 30 milliliters of whole blood. All right, so what we're going to do is take, well, you guys are smart. You can do it in your head. If it's 30 milliliters, that's at least 2, right? All right, so let's pretend we don't know what we're doing. 65. Then we're going to take the 65 and then divide it by 30. Again, why? Because 30 milliliters, this is the magic number. 1 vial is good for 30 mils of whole blood. I don't know if you can see that. Okay. All right. 65 divided by 30 equals 2.16. 2.16, same as 2.2, right? So we're going to say 2.2 doses. Now, 2.2 doses of RhoGam. All right, now, 2.2. Well, I can't give a 0.2, so we're just going to give 2. Now, because this process is not totally quantitative, okay, because we're kind of guessing, we're going to add 1. So it's going to be the number that you get plus 1. So we're going to give this person 3 vials. All right. Now we're not supposed to give more than 5 vials at a time, and we can inject that in each side of the buttocks for your mom. And normally they don't really need that much, but anyway, that's how you figure out how much RhoGam there is. Again, so on your next week, you're going to be doing fetal maternal hemorrhage, and your fetal maternal hemorrhage is checking to see if there was a large bleed. So, well, let me put this down. All right. All right. Oh, my marker got dried up. All right. Number 1, fetal maternal hemorrhage rosette test. If it's positive, we do one thing. If it's negative, we stop, and then we can give the mom 1 vial. If the mother is Rh negative and the baby is Rh positive and she has no anti-D, we're going to stop and give 1 vial. If it's positive, then we have to do the Klahour-Bedke test. Okay. Then we're going to find out the percent. Then we're going to take the percent and then multiply it by 50, and that gives us the milliliters of blood. Then we're going to take that and we're going to divide it by 30, and that's going to give you the number of vials. Okay. All right, so that is kind of what we're doing. Again, number 1, fetal maternal hemorrhage, just to see if there was a large amount of blood. If there was, we have to find out how much. So we do the KB test. How do we do the KB test? We make a smear of the mother's blood, we stain it, we do an acid elution, hemoglobin F resists the elution, and then we count 2,000 cells and we get a percentage. Once we get our percentage, we're going to multiply that percentage by 50 to get the milliliters of blood, and then after that, then we're going to divide that by 30 for the number of vials. And yay, we're finished, and you have been able to Now tell the physician how many vials of RhoGam that your patient needs. All right, that's it. That's what you'll be doing next week. And just wanted to put this up because it's important. All right, bye.